Welcome back, y'all. This morning, well, first off, appreciate y'all tuning in. For those who been following, again, welcome back. For everybody that is your first time, welcome in. So this morning, this is gonna be a message about kind of how I get myself where I need to be mentally, and then kind of two different illustrations of, I guess, how I process my routine on a daily basis and then the adjustments. So on one hand, it's like, and this will probably sound crazy. So, but it's a lot of stuff in the media about like alternate universes and multiverses and all of that stuff. So like on one hand, it's like you can picture all these different versions of yourself, and that, in this realm, so to speak, like the one that you invest in the most is the one that like has control. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is like tuning a radio. So both of these, I guess, illustrations or thought processes are things that through different conversations and experiments in my life on how to do certain things, this is how I kind of imagine it when struggling, or when things aren't necessarily what I want them to be, or I'm not necessarily where I feel like I should be, and justifying whatever effort it takes to get there. So again, like picture, it's either a bunch of different alternate realities, or picture is like a bunch of different alternate versions of yourself. So if you look at your life, right, at different points of time where you were doing different things, you were essentially a different person. So like this version of me, timeshare Clarence, versus the military version of me, versus the steel foundry version of me, versus, working at Sam's Club, or working in fast food, not working, stay-at-home dad version of me, like all of these different versions of myself, and like at what point of time would I like for my life to be like now. So like my apartment, for example, there was a point in time where like all of my stuff was squared away, so I think about that version of myself. What was I doing differently? So that ties into like tuning in, right? So just like a radio, like you can turn the radio on and it can be loud, but just be static, no music. But then it's a lot of different stations you could tune into, but you don't necessarily want to tune into every station. You want to find the station that you want to listen to. So you can do that different ways. And if you already know what the station is, what do? You just tune into that station. But if you're in like a new place and you have no clue what the radio stations are, then you just you tune to different stations, and you keep tuning until you go through enough where, okay, this is the one I want to listen to. So I feel like that's kind of different stages of your life, or my life, should I say. So physically, when I was in high school, like my freshman year, I was like 230 pounds. And that's actually what I weigh right now, but completely different person, right? At one point in time, when I was 190, I was out of shape, fat, as a middle school kid or whatever. Like that was ridiculous. But at 190, when I was in the military, that was a completely different story. So like if I want to tune into what my body was like when it was like that, right, then I play with the dial, because I know what I was doing. So I could immediately flip to a certain station, right, and it'll play that music. I would get tuned in very quickly because I know directly where I'm going. But I think about what I was doing at that point in time. And is that something I want to do? And the honest answer is absolutely not, which is why I'm not approaching it that way. When I was probably in the best shape of my life, I was literally in the gym, bench pressing every day. Then I transitioned to jogging every day. I was always in the gym. I had nothing else to do. I was in Iraq. So, and again, it's debatable what was the best physical version of myself, either right after basic training or when I came back from Iraq. But either way, like, I'll take it right now in a heartbeat. But again, am I willing to tune into that station? Am I willing to, work out 3-4 hours? I'm not. So then I think about, all right, so was it another version of me that I liked or was close to what I liked physically? And then what was I doing at that point in time? So since I've been in Vegas, probably the best version of myself physically, I was around 207. And at that time, I really wasn't putting too much effort into working out. I just was basically doing my walk, doing my push-ups, and unintentionally doing intermittent fasting just because of my schedule. So that's what I'm tuning back into, and that's why. Because that's the version that I feel like make the most sense for me in the long run and what I can commit to. Now, that may change a year from now or 2 years from now, where I may be in better shape and things a little bit different, so my focus is different, and I might feel like, okay, I want to do more. I want to dedicate more, and then that'll be an adjustment I make at that point in time. But again, it's just tuning into a different station. So like, that's one way I justify things when they're hard, especially when it's things that I've already been through, because I know that station. So, but if it's a station I don't want to listen to, like, I'm not going to tune into it. So I would suggest for anybody that kind of struggle with that, just think about like in whatever area. So whether if it's your credit, for example, like if there was a point of time where you had good credit, what was different? What were you doing differently? And then tune into that. Again, I just address weight, that's health, whatever. So again, if it was a point of time where you were a lot closer to your ideal image of yourself physically, what were you doing? Tune back into that. Relationships, when you had good relationships with people and maybe you feel like your relationship suffered a little bit, like what were you doing different? Were you texting that person more? Were you reaching out to that person more? Were you having different types of conversations with that person? Tune into that. Faith, like whatever you were doing when in that specific area you were the best version of yourself, like tune into it. But if you feel like none of that'll work for you, you got to find a different station. So you got to try different things. You got to tune into different stations until it's the music you want to listen to. So that's like one side of how I process refining my routine and making the decisions on what I'm going to do or not do. And then like physically, and again, like everybody not at the same stage of their life, but I mean, everybody have aches and pains. My nephew was telling me, about getting hurt and not doing his push-ups. So again, it don't matter what age you are, but physically, like it's also, if you look at it from a physical standpoint, if it's a contest, right? So different points in my life. So I think as an adult, my lowest weight was 191. My highest weight was 284, right? So now this is what's going on in my head when I'm jogging and my calves hurting or my back hurting or whatever. Like, it's a fight, right? It's a fight physically between these versions of myself. So you got this one version that, like, when I was 284, what was I doing, right? So for him to jog, it hurt, right? So to push through the pain, I justified it by like picturing a fight between myself, like the versions of myself, like are fighting to take over my body. So like the one version is fighting for me not to do this. So, you're trying to make it difficult. And then the other version is fighting. So who will win realistically? If I think about when I was in the best shape of my life and when I was in the worst shape of my life, who will win? Of course I will win, even though it may not look like it, right? But like 191 Clarence would thrash 284 Clarence. So like he will win that battle, and then I will push myself. Like that's how I justify it. I think I kind of spun that off of, I think a lot of people heard this tale, and again, I don't know the origin, so like don't, you know what I mean? It is what it is. The concept is what matters to me. So it's like a grandson talking to his grandfather, and he was telling him like he had these conflicting wolves inside of him. He felt like it's a war, like they fighting every day. And it's like one wolf is all of the anger, the rage, the resentment, you know, the hatred, like pain, like everything negative, everything bad. Like that's one wolf. And then the other wolf is the opposite. You know, is love, compassion, you know, all of the good things, consideration, support, all the good things. And he asked his grandfather, you know, which wolf will win, and he telling the one that he feed the most. So I think that's really kind of where the idea came from, of, you know, just imagining versions of myself fighting, like even, and it's not just a weight thing, even what I was doing at a certain point in time. So the two things that I use mentally to push myself are the concept of tuning in. So, you know, think about ultimately tuning into the person you want to be. And that might be going from station to station very slowly, cycling through the channels, trying to figure out what works. And it may be absolutely knowing what station you want to listen to, and then quickly trying to get to implementing, you know, getting to that station, tuning into that station by doing those things. So you have different roads. And then the other thing is like, it's different versions of yourself. And it's essentially a fight. Like, train the one you want to win, because ultimately that's who's going to win. The version of yourself that controls you more often than not is going to be the version that you turn into in the long run. So like if you end up out of shape, overweight, broke, bad credit, like that's because you let that version win. You let the version win that was irresponsible, inconsistent, that wouldn't push themselves, that whatever. So like the concept of this page, to kind of wrap this up, is really trying to find ways to make this stuff easy. So I'm just really sharing some of the things that work for me, because at this point, like, it's no doubt to me, regardless of like if anybody ever watched this or believe in it or whatever, like I know what I'm going to accomplish, because like I've already done the research. I've already gone through the vast majority of the things, because like I've been where I want to be at different stages of my life. I'm just not there right now. I've had multiple houses, you know, I've been in good shape. I've had great credit. You know, I was in shape. I was happy, like all of this stuff. And not to say that I'm miserable, and it's just like, I'm not finna, like, this not finna be the life I tune into. I'm gonna tune into the life where all of those things are the reality, not the opposite. But for me, I know a lot of the things that I did in the past, I don't want to tune back into those stations on some levels. So that's the trade-off. It's like now I'm just trying to find my different stations to tune into. So that's what I have for y'all this morning. And then I'll probably, and I always say probably, but it's a pretty good chance when I get home, then I'll probably record something on the other side. But this is just like the little daily advice. So hope that is beneficial. Again, appreciate y'all tuning in. Please like and subscribe, right? Because that's the only way that I see if this is even beneficial to anybody, or anybody is really following this. So anyway, for those of you who are, appreciate you. But yeah, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, because ultimately, like, that's what I need. One.